develop tasamuh, tolerance among each other. In fact, in some cases, bitter relation develop among Muslim, let's say among the Salafis and among the modernists. There is a strong bitter disagreement between the Salafis, the Ahlul Hadith, and the modernist reformists. This is the case in the Indian subcontinent for many years, for probably for centuries already. Yeah? This is first. So we need to develop tolerance among Muslim groups in order to be able to develop wasatiyah Islam. Secondly, we should also need to develop a good relation between Muslim and non-Muslim, particularly in India, of course, with Hindus, yeah, with the Hindus. Yeah. Unfortunately, in the last almost 2 decades, I think, relation between these two groups are not very, is getting, I think, getting worse and worse with the increased fundamentalism among Hindus. In fact, in Indian political scene has been dominated by fundamentalist oriented Hindu political groups called BJP. Yeah? And then, of course, from time to time, there is a lot of persecution, there is a lot of discrimination, not only on Muslim, but also on other minority groups in India, including the Christians. Yeah. So I think, I don't know how to develop a better, fruitful relation between Islam and Muslim and Hindus in India for the time being. But as far as democracy is concerned, of course, Muslim needs to be able, together with moderate Hindus in non-religious based political parties like the Congress Party in India. It is unfortunate that Congress Party has been in decline for several years. So I think Muslims should play a greater role, need to push the revitalization of Congress Party in India. Because as a minority group, Muslim would not be able to play an important role in Indian politics unless Muslim integrate themselves into non-religious based political party, like Congress Party. I don't know. Besides Congress Party, whether you have another or some other non-Hindu based political parties in India. I don't know what is now the main problem of Congress Party, because but I think Congress Party has not been able to revitalize itself. But we understand that Muslim had played an important role in the past by joining the Congress Party. So because it is not possible for Muslim to stand against, let's say, by building an Islamic-based political party confronting the Hindu-based political parties like BJP. It is not possible. It is very, very difficult. So I'm not sure about this, but if we look at the picture of Indian Muslim, I think we are very hopeful with Indian Muslim, even though Indian Muslims are minority, but by 2050, the number of Indian Muslim would surpass the number of Indonesian Muslim. So the concentration of Muslim would not be in Indonesia, no longer in Indonesia, but would be in India. So I think in order to, to anticipate this, I think Muslims should consolidate themselves, try to try to improve relation among Muslim group, promoting mutual understanding among different Muslim groups, and then of course re-strengthening Indian Muslim position in non-religious based political party in India. With that, I think we would be able to to improve the condition of Muslims in the future. Yeah. I think this is some of my thought about Indian Muslim in relation to democracy in India or in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Azra, for the introduction. And I think one very important issue, looking at as minorities within diversities in Muslim themselves, but at the same time also facing challenges dealing with the current political dynamics, including how to live with the other non-Muslim, also the rise of nationalist Hindu militant. That's another obstacle perhaps in the future to develop more a better relation with others. But this is not only the story in India. I think other countries also facing similar thing. What we experience in Indonesia with having different engagement from Muslim in whether non-Islamic based party or it is an Islamic based party, is all depend on how Muslim can get better opportunity. So of course we want to really hear from inside India. Therefore we bring some friends that been working closely in this context. And our sister Kutub, working with Nida, is going to moderate. So we have been working together with Sister Kutub for a long time. She used to work with Professor Ali Asgar before, and now continuing in spreading their justice message, including spreading the progressive interpretation to Muslim, and also looking at a possibility how relation Muslim with other groups continue in harmonious situation. So Sister Kutub is going to moderate the whole session, and without further ado, I am going to give to Sister Kutub the floor. Sister Kutub, please.
Thank you so much, Sister Ruby. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone. I'm so excited to have this first collaboration with Aman Indonesia, and we are working very closely to bring a particular narratives among the Muslims, which will help develop a very inclusive approach towards believers of other faith community. And hopefully in future we will have another series of Muslim talks where we will try to zero down on our role as a moderate or wasatan Muslims, which Professor Azra rightly said, that we need to have this balance and very wisdom in our approach when we are going through such challenging situation. As we all know, the present political dispensation is such that it's really the most challenging time we are going through, especially post-independence. Since 1947, the political party is on almost, the opposition political party is on the verge of collapse. There are no a national level political party who represents the voice of minorities and other groups, and also how they are able to safeguard the constitutional principle. That is again a major question, because there are instances of the present political system where they want to dilute the constitutional provisions. So without further delay, I would like to invite all our speakers, and let me extend my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers, Father Cedric Prakash, Dr. Muhammad Hassan, and Advocate Anjum, for accepting this invite and helping us, to gain more knowledge and wisdom through their representations. First of all, I would like to introduce Father Cedric Prakash. Ruby and all the in Aman and the networkers in India, I'm very honored to have one of the pioneer and champion of communal harmony in India. And he is, his life itself is a message, like as Gandhi said. He has been championing the cause of human rights and communal harmony since day one. And as I said, with Asghar Ali Engineer, he is one of the pioneers in this field of peace and justice. And he's a priest who is on the front line, because there are very such rare combination which we see in India, where priests are, of course, they are part of the movement, but they are not so much in the front line, not in the ground. So Father Cedric Prakash is an inspiring figure for all of us. Allow me to introduce him. Father Cedric Prakash is a Catholic priest and belongs to Gujarat province of the Society of Jesus. He is well-known human rights, reconciliation and peace activist trainer with a focus on advocacy. He is also a prolific writer on subjects related to justice, peace, environment, contextual spirituality, and the Constitution of India. On October 2001, on the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, Father Prakash founded Prashant, the Ahmedabad-based Jesuit Center for Human Rights, Justice and Peace, and was the director of the center until 2016. Father Prakash is a visiting faculty in several colleges, seminary, university, both in India and abroad. And Father Prakash is also a recipient of many prestigious awards in India. Several international national awards is in his honors. This includes Kabir Puraskar Award 1995 by the President of India for the promotion of communal peace and harmony, Rafiq Ahmad Kidwai Award by the Indian Muslim Council USA for humanitarian work, the Legends of Honor 2006 President of French Republic for a lifetime commitment to defense and promote human rights in India, the National Minority Rights Award 2006 by the National Commission for Minorities, Mother Teresa International Award for Social Justice by the Harmony Foundation, and several Lifetime Achievement Awards. Father Cedric Prakash, for the last 3 years, has been based, he was also based in Europe from 2016 to 2018, Beirut, Lebanon, in the regional office of the Jesuit Refugee Services, Middle East and North Africa region. As a regional advocacy communication officer working with refugee and international displaced person in Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon, in collaboration with St. Joseph University, he headed a path-breaking research study journeying together on the situation of Syrian refugees in Lebanon. So these are the few, I think, from his elaborate life, or you can say, am I able to hear everyone? I think I lost the connection. Okay, yeah.
No, you are good.
All right. So now I request Father Cedric Prakash to take us to the path of wisdom with his presentation on Constitution of India, especially focusing on the rights of minorities given in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kutub. Am I audible? Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you for that elaborate introduction. I feel very privileged and honored to be today with Aman, with Nida, with Ruby, with Kutub, and all the others for arranging this very important webinar, this discussion, this Muslim talk on democratic and constitutional rights in India, the future of Hindu-Muslim relations in India. And the focus that I've been given for the next 15 minutes is what the Indian Constitution says about the rights of minorities. At this moment, I would like to focus on a Supreme Court ruling just a couple of hours ago. We have a very famous Muslim in India called Muhammad Zubair, together with another friend, Pratik Sinha from Ahmedabad, where I come from. He began what's called Alt News, alternative news. The short form is Alt News. Please do a Google on it. And for the last several years, they have been providing the people of India with facts. These are facts because we live in what we call WhatsApp University. A lot of fake news is going on. Now, Zubair over the years has been known for his tweets. He has been giving some excellent tweets and so on. Recently, there was one of the BJP spokesperson, one Nupur Sharma, who made on a public channel very derogatory remarks on our Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. And later on, Muhammad Zubair also did a tweet, literally challenging her on what, and other tweets too. Suddenly they raked up a huge amount of old stories about him, about one Hanuman Hotel, which was renamed Honeymoon Hotel. About 5 or 6 years ago, he tweeted with a picture. There was nothing derogatory about any god, for hurting religious sentiments. And for the last more than a month, he has been from one jail to another, one FIR to another. Finally, in a path-breaking decision just now, the Supreme Court of India said that at 6 o'clock this evening, maybe it is about this time, that Muhammad Zubair has to be set free with a bond, and that all the FIRs, the complaints registered against him, should be clubbed together and just one hearing, whatever it is. This is a landmark judgment on 3 counts. And in the context of what I would like to share with you this evening. First of all, we have freedom of speech and expression in India. That is Article 19 of the Constitution, which is a universal declaration of human rights. And the Supreme Court today said a journalist has a right to tweet. If he goes beyond limits, that's another thing. But today, the public prosecutor wanted him to stop tweeting. We have reached such ridiculous, levels in India. The second issue is that Muhammad Zubair has only been speaking about facts, and he's been challenging the system on facts, the plain truth, and that is important. And we have the whole question of right to information and so on. The Indian citizen needs to be made aware of what are the facts are. The third issue is that Muhammad Zubair is a Muslim, and that is important. Okay. Nupur Sharma is a Hindu. She makes derogatory remarks. She's provided with state security. The other day, the Supreme Court made some terrible remarks against her, saying that she is responsible for all the terrible things happening. But a couple of days ago, the same bench, literally changed her remark, saying that she should be given protection, whatever. I don't justify violence. No one has the right to take the life of anybody. But the point is, just because Muhammad Zubair is a Muslim, he's been targeted. And just because Nupur Sharma has the patronage of the ruling regime in India, she's given not only, she can get away with the impunity, but also has the immunity. My focus today, my dear friends, whoever is listening to me now, I know it's being live streamed and many will see it on YouTube later, is on what does the Indian Constitution say about the rights of minorities. And I would like to focus on several articles of the Indian Constitution. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, which prohibits unequal treatment, that everyone is equal before the law. Then we have several other articles which follow Article 14, mainly Article 15, 17, then 25, 28, 29, 30. Basically, it prohibits discrimination. When we speak about minority rights in India, definitely we are speaking about religious rights, but we're also speaking about cultural, ethnic, linguistic rights in the country. That has been defined in our constitution. In any way in which a particular group of people are affected, they have the right not to be discriminated against. But today, just now, I'm focusing a lot on religious rights. And the targeting in India today, as our learned professor has just said in his keynote address, has been Muslims and Christians. The Muslims are the single biggest minority in the country, as was referred to in the keynote address. It is the second largest in the world population after Indonesia. And soon we may become bigger in terms of Muslims in India, the biggest population in the world. And the Christians, there's a big difference between Muslims and Christians in terms of percentage. We Christians are a minuscule, about 2.3%, very small in comparison to the 13 or 14 or whatever percentage of the Muslims in the country. I would like to make here, put in context, many things that have been happening, particularly against the Muslims. First of all, you have a lot of discriminatory attitudes by the government through the official policies, and also by a group which subscribes to an ideology which is fascist, which is called Hindutva. It is exactly what fascism was about, what Hitler's Nazism was about. It is one nation, one culture, one religion. It's a hegemony of a group of people. It has nothing to do with mainline Hinduism. That we should accept and acknowledge. Most of the Hindus, I would think, are peace-loving people and so on. But now a small group is trying to create the whole business of majoritarianism. This country belongs to Hindus, and the Hindus will rule the country, which has not been there right from the beginning, from the time we were given the Constitution of India on the 26th of November 1949. We became a republic on the 26th of January 1950. So it is important for us to realize right from the preamble of the Constitution, which you see just behind me on the slide, is that we have justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. We are a secular, we are a sovereign, we are a democratic country in which the dignity and unity of every single citizen is preserved, is protected, is promoted. Article 25 of the Constitution gives me the right to preach, practice, and propagate my religion. And that is very clear. It's also used the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, several states in the country have brought in a draconian anti-conversion law, which definitely means that unless you seek the permission of the civil authority, an average Indian, maybe who's a Hindu or whatever, cannot embrace Islam, or for that matter, Christianity, or any other maybe minority religion. Then we had in 2019, in December, on the 9th of December, the infamous Citizenship Amendment Act, which was clearly meant to target the Muslims who had come in maybe over the years from Bangladesh during the Bangladesh War of Liberation, in 69 and 70. And several of the Muslims had fled that part of East Bengal from East Pakistan to come into India. And from that time, more than 50 years, they have been living there. Now, many of them do have an identity. Many of them do not have an identity. So this Citizenship Amendment Act is blatantly unconstitutional. It goes against the citizenship of the country, and then it is targeting the Muslims. Then we have had the whole issues of the national education policy which comes in. one of the things guaranteed in the Constitution is that the minorities have the right to manage their educational institutions, to manage, the educational content of their institutions. But what has happened since 2019, when they first had the draft policy, they have decided to usher in a national education policy, which infringes on the minority rights of a Muslim, of a Christian, to run their own educational institutions, and definitely of other minorities too. But I'm just focusing just non-Muslims. For example, we have the sacred book of the Hindus, which is called the Bhagavad Gita. I'm a student of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a beautiful book, okay? But in a secular state like India, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita cannot be imposed in government institutions at all. Maybe you can have an Hindu institution, just as in a Muslim institution, you can teach the Quran. In a Christian institution, you can teach the Bible, but it cannot be imposed. But what the national education policy is doing just now, it's imposing the teaching of just one religion on the students. This is blatantly unconstitutional. We have many religions in India. India has given to the world Jainism. It has given to the world Buddhism. It has given to the world Sikhism. While Sikhism is a monotheistic religion, like Islam and Christianity, the belief in one God, Buddhism and Jainism are atheistic religion. Basically, it is the karma, the self. And then we have other smaller religions too, like the Zoroastrians, the Parsis, we have the Baha'i, we have a small percentage of Jews in India. So what we're talking about is the pluralistic fabric of the country. Then what has been happening over the years is that the fascist element of Hindutva decides on what you eat, what you wear, what you eat, what you read, what you see. For example, there was a whole controversy of the hijab that came in the Karnataka state, whether for years the girls have been wearing the hijab when they went to school. It was not an issue. Some institutions did prescribe maybe the color of the uniform. If it's a cream color or a brown color, whatever it is, the girls wore that dress with the hijab of the suitable color. Now, suddenly it has become a controversy. This is amazing. Beef eating. Now, for example, we have a great historian in India, okay, Romila Thappar, who has evidenced, she's one of the greatest historians we have in India, okay, saying that ancient Indians always ate beef. Today, you cannot be selective to say that in some states you can eat beef, some you cannot, and basically it is meant to target the Muslims and perhaps other minorities like the Christians who also eat beef, and many others. But a lot of Hindus also eat beef, like those in West Bengal, in Kerala, and so on. These are Hindus. So people have been lynched for walking with cattle. People have been lynched for keeping beef in their fridges. These are purely unconstitutional, where I have the right to life and liberty, and the Constitution of India guarantees that. Then comes this whole aspect of how do I pray, how do I worship? Now suddenly, the Karnataka government has been targeting places of worship of Muslims and of Christians. It's like this. I believe, as every Muslim believes, that God is everywhere. Okay, I've seen hundreds and thousands of Muslims, doing their namaz in airports, in public places, and things like that. And I believe, even as I speak to you, my God is present here. So if I sit and pray with my friends in a house, so now the police authorities go to these places and say, how can you have a church or a mosque in a place and pray there. Okay, but the point is, they're not doing it for a party run by maybe their kind, their ilk. You know, you may have drinking and dancing and whatever it is. They don't call that a hotel. They don't call a bar. Okay, but if I pray in a particular house, that becomes a church or a mosque, and I need to seek permission, you know, even to use the loudspeaker. You know, definitely we have to respect the law of the land, the decibels. But the point is, this is willful targeting. There are a whole range of targeting that is happening in India today where minorities are concerned, and very especially where Muslims are concerned. And this is very, very unfortunate. Now, what is the way forward? And this is my final point. I'm saying is, the vast majority of Hindus in India are great people, are wonderful people who believe in the diversity, in the pluralistic fabric of the country. And minorities, though they are the receiving end, are generally faithful and are patriotic. You know, they believe in the nation. So what we need is to try to create synergies as far as possible at the grassroots level, at the level of our villages, of our poor areas, of our bastis, so that people can come together. I've been born and brought up in a tradition where my classmates in my school were Hindus and Muslims and Parsis and other religions. And I came from Bombay, from a very, very mixed locality, even when I went to the university. So how can we encourage this pluralistic fabric? So it is very important, if you're talking about Muslim voices, first of all, no religion, not Christian, not Muslims, can be exclusive. We have to create synergies in which we are all as inclusive as possible. I think Muslims should talk to people of the Quran, yes, but also have maybe the openness to learn maybe something from the Bible or from the Bhagavad Gita or from the Guru Granth Sahib and so on. How do we create these synergies, which is very important? Secondly, every single citizen of India has only one holy book, has citizenship. Please do not misunderstand me. I'm a Catholic priest. My holy book is the Bible. I respect all those who are listening. Your holy book is the Quran. But as citizenship, as a citizen of India, we have only one sacred book, and that is the Constitution of India. And we need to promote, propagate, and preserve the sanctity of this Constitution of India and take it to the people. Fight for our constitutional rights. Fight for the secular fabric of the country. Fight for the fact that no religion can kind of overpower us, can negate our identity as citizens of India. For me, I'm a Gandhian, and Mahatma Gandhi gave the world two key principles: Satyagraha and Ahimsa, the force of truth, and the principle of non-violence. Violence cannot be the answer. So what educated and enlightened Muslims should also try to do is to ensure that in the name of religion, no one takes up the sword. No religion preaches violence. Christians are violent. Everywhere you see it in the United States. Hindus are violent, Muslims are violent, but there's no religion in its basic tenets that speaks of violence. So wherever and whenever it is possible, educated, enlightened Muslims need to take a stand against any violent action created by anybody in the name of religion. No religion preaches violence. And the final thing I would like to say is that open talks, Muslim talks like this, debates, webinars, and even physical seminars are a must. I would like to encourage both Aman and Nida to continue this conversation, bring more people into dialogue. Both is like that. when I shared this with some of my friends, immediately they said, but there is no Hindu speaking. I wish there was a Hindu here today, okay? An Indian Hindu. So try to create synergies, try to create possibilities to continue this conversation, to take the conversation to the grassroots level, whether it is in Indonesia, whether it is in India, and bring in people, all mainstream people from all walks of life who believe that we belong to one earth, a earth in which we are all sisters and brothers. God bless you all, and thank you for giving me this opportunity of sharing with you some dimensions from the Constitution of India with regard to the rights of minorities.
Thank you so much. It was amazing, Father, to have such an, because this is the first session I'm hearing from you, and to give the context and then come to the constitutional provisions. That makes it more easier for the people who are outside India to understand this entire scenario. Father, we very much welcome the speakers from different faith groups. We also had few speakers from Hindu community, but the timings and dates were not appropriate for them. So since it is a Muslim talk, it's going to be a series of Muslim talks. So in the second upcoming Muslim talks, we will have more such speakers from different faith groups. And yes, this is efforts from me and my sister so far in Indonesia to culminate this entire message into a message towards the humanity. Since being a Muslim, we have to adopt that wasatan part what Professor Azra has been constantly emphasizing on. Wasatan is the only, like as I said, it's a middle path. We have to be like tolerant, we have to be very acceptable and cordial to other religious groups, because that is what the basic tenets of Islam also speaks about. The radicalization which is taking place in the recent few years of what we have been going through, especially, and we are also afraid that these radical Muslims are also part of that BJP political wings. They are not from they are not from the normal Muslim community. They are somehow associated with the right wing militant groups. So that is also a major challenge for the Muslim within the community, because as you said, like most Hindu, all the Muslims in India are they are struggling for their survival, they are struggling for their education, jobs and other things, and I don't think in Indian Islamic context we are more inclined towards Sufi philosophy rather than adopting Salafi or any other form of puritanical so-called Islam. So there are hopes, and yes, our message is our efforts, especially these efforts, is meant to go to the grassroots people, to go to the community members who are affected and who want to be a part of this. As you said, you're a Gandhian, so very soon I'll be taking Gandhi Yatra from Delhi to India-Pakistan border, and then from there we'll be announcing interfaith gatherings, in different districts. So this is like in villages and in small towns, we will be gathering, people will be gathering among from different community with us, and we are going to launch that. We call it Sadbhavana Baitak, it's going to take place all over India. So hopefully we need your blessings and also wisdoms.
Definitely.
And yes, when your time allows, do join us for this yatra.
I will definitely do so. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Father Cedric Prakash. Be with us, because we are going to have questions and answer session at the end of the presentation. So now allow me to invite Professor Mohammed Hassan. Yes, he's one of the mentor for me, because he's very close friend of, he was very close, and still I believe he's a close friend of Dr. Asghar Ali Engineer. And he's a geographer and environment and human rightist. And Mohammed Hassan's Sediment of Silence, a writer's workshop, was recited in JLF 2019, Parallel Literature Festival and Poetry Society of India, and Kitabo, the Blue City Children's Literature Festival 2018. His poem appeared in Book Chronicle and MKSS Anthology and Madras Courier. His photo exhibition, Shadows of Silence, Unhinged Life in Kashmir, at JKK Jaipur, I'm Nobody, and other poems in his second book, and he is been educated at Jodhpur University, Syracuse University PhD, and from Manchester University. He was awarded a gold medal in MA, and he's a Fulbright scholar. And he has also received Hayes Scholarship and British Council Fellowship. He taught at Jodhpur and Nairobi University and HCM, Rajasthan State Institute of Public Administration. He mobilizes relief for disaster victims. This is new information for me, Professor Hassan, but I know him as another champion of communal harmony when there was riots in Udaipur, Jaipur, and also he's working among the Muslims for the reforms within the community. So I invite Professor Hassan, and you're welcome to open your talk in this webinar. Thank you. Professor Hassan, your audio, yeah, unmute yourself. Please check your audio. You're still not audible, Professor Hassan.
The main host can unmute him, I think.
Yes, Ruby, could you please ask the team to unmute?
Yes, actually, Ms. Hassan is already Mr. Hassan already unmuted, but we cannot hear the voice. Maybe you can not using the earphone. Just use the audio from the handphone.
No, from what we see, he is still muted.
Actually, it's already open. The audio.
Yeah, from what I see, it's already unmuted.
Yes.
Professor Hassan, could you use your laptop audio rather than the earphone?
Sister Kutub, can I suggest that we can move to this next speaker, then we can come back to Professor Hassan later, while
right.
our staff calling and helping for fixing.
All right. Professor Hassan, we will join you again. Meanwhile, we will invite the third speaker, Advocate Anjum Ara Begum. Advocate Anjum Ara Begum, currently she is an associate professor at Arunachal Pradesh University. And she has been Executive Director for Women Leadership Training Center in Assam. She was also South Asian Program Officer for Asian Forum for Human Rights and Development, Nepal. She was also Program Officer for Asian Legal Resource Center, and she was Assistant Professor at Nerim Law College, Assam. She has several articles and her papers in different journals and magazines, and she had done her LLM from Guwahati University, Assam. Well, Professor Advocate Anjum is also a very well-known human rights activist in Northeast of India, and she has been very active during the conflict period, especially helping women in the conflict areas in Manipur and Northeast. And she is one of the iconic figure when it comes to speaking about the women's rights, women's role in peace building in conflict area. And she's still very active and engaged, and she is also part of a legal aid service where she provides pro bono service to the women who are victims of violence and domestic violence. Professor Anjum Ara Begum, you're welcome to speak on this webinar.
Thank you very much, Kutub and Aman and Nida also for inviting me. May I request someone to display my presentation? Hello, is it possible to display from there?
Hanifa, could you display the presentation? Hani is there?
Hani.
Okay, maybe I'll keep on speaking while fixing because otherwise we're losing time. So this is a very important discussion and I'm very happy to be a part of it. We are going through a very different phase in this time, especially in India, where the society is so much, polarized and especially the minorities, Muslim minorities are facing a lot of hardship. It's good that we are having some discussions and trying to find out the way ahead. So today I thought of speaking about a very peculiar situation that's being faced by the minorities women, especially Muslim women, and both Muslim men and women, but also include some other minority communities as well, like tribals, transgender communities, and that is the main essence of our right, which gives us to enjoy all our constitutional rights. That is the right to the citizenship right. If we are not a citizen, if we cannot prove that we are a citizen of this country, we cannot have any right. We cannot enjoy any of the right in the constitution. So that is the prior requirement, and that is what is the challenge here that we are facing. Especially Bengali speaking, this is a linguistic, ethnic issues, as well as with the current, government, there is also a religious issue as well. So I would like to show you this my presentation, and you can see the map of India. So I'm speaking particularly about a state in a very northeastern part. You can, if you see, that is the state of Assam. So I'm talking about this place. You can see the Bangladesh is here. On the other side is the, China. We are surrounded by China, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. So I'm talking of this area where there is a state called Assam. Next slide, please. So in Assam has a large population of Muslim population. Can you go to the next slide, please? Whoever is operating.
Anjali, carry on.
Yeah, can
wait.
someone go to the next, next slide, please? Yeah. So you can see that Assam has a very large percentage of the Muslim population, and nearly 40% of population is Muslim. And a major part of this Muslim population is also Bengali speaking Muslims, and who are mostly of them are in the western part of the Assam. Next slide, please. So the issue here is that India became independent in 1947, and before that, during the colonial period, during the British period, there was a large number of people who were migrated to Assam, and most of them were brought to cultivate tea. Tea is Assam tea is very famous, and Assam provides about 60% of the tea all over the world. And also there were many Bengali speaking Muslim populations were encouraged to migrate to Assam for the agriculture purpose. There was a huge chunk of land which was wasteland was there in the western part of Assam. So this more population was brought from the East Bengal which is currently the Bangladesh. So maybe over 100 and 150 years ago or 200 years ago, these people were bought and they were encouraged to use the land to cultivate more food. And this we can see even today, the Muslim population in the western part of Assam is still engaged in the food cultivation, and they provide the best quality and of fruits and vegetables all over the state. And in one report, it also says that it's because of this population, Assam could avoid many famines and they could avoid many deaths. Okay, so coming to the issues, when these people migrated from the Bengal side to the Assam, the local population who were Assamese speakers and or there were many other different languages are also there, ethnic communities were a bit unhappy. And when India became independent in 1947, there were several other laws were passed to determine who is the genuine Indian citizen and who is not. So in this slide, you can see there were a lot of laws were passed. In 1950, there was Immigrant Expulsion Act was passed. Then NRC, the National Register of Citizens, which was carried out only in the state of Assam in 1951, and which was again repeated here, and I will speak later on. And the government also established the Foreigners Tribunal, where the citizenship of a particular person will be reviewed and checked. And also you can see that there was a big agitation, nearly 6 years long agitation was there in Assam from 1979 to 1983. There were basically demand of expulsion of people from who has migrated from the Bengal. And also at that time also there was a massacre in a small village in Assam. It's actually a combination of 16 villages. There's a place called Neli, and where nearly nearly 3,000 people were killed in just 4 hours on 18 February 1983. So this is still known as one of the worst massacre after the independence of India. So there were several other acts also. IMDT Act was one of the very infamous law. It was like Illegal Migrant Determination Act, and the provision here is that whoever police arrest, the state has to prove, the burden of proof was with the state, that they have to prove that this person is not an Indian but a foreigner. And this act was declared as unconstitutional in 2005. Next slide, please. And then little bit I want to talk about this whole issue of Foreigners Tribunal, because this is like in India, we have, apart from the formal judicial system, like the Supreme Court, High Court, these are some quasi-judicial bodies which are, which are run by the administrative people. They're not necessarily people from the law background, or they're not judges, they're not judges, but they function like the court, and they determine whether a person is an Indian or a foreigner. So in Assam, there are currently nearly 200 of these foreigners tribunal here to determine the people's citizenship. And I'll just in briefly say what happens there. Like the police can report to this tribunal that this person is suspected foreigner, and then the foreigner will issue warrant or issue someone that the person has to come. So there is some proceeding, and if someone fails to prove their Indian citizenship, then the person will be sent to a detention center. As far as you know, when someone is a foreigner, the rule is that they should be deported to their original country. But here, in these cases, more because the process is so faulty and so biased, that they cannot neither locate their original country of residence, nor there is no formal process also to deportation. So what they do, they put the person in detention camps, and I'll show you some case studies also later on, how this process has affected and completely ruined the life of people. Next slide, please. And also regarding detention centers, one of the largest detention center in India with a capacity of 3,000 people is going to be constructed in Assam, is under construction, and it will be a reality very soon. Okay, so can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. And now let me share with you this phenomenon of NRC. NRC is the National Citizens Register. So in 2019, the Supreme Court of India, under the supervision of Supreme Court of India, there was a list was prepared about the citizens in Assam, and about 32 million people applied to prove they claimed that they are the genuine Indian citizen. And out of that, when the result was and the list was announced in 2019, about 1.9 million, nearly 2 million people were excluded. So it said that they could not qualify as citizen, and that's why they are not included in the list. And as a consequences, what we can see today is that these people may be at the risk of statelessness, because nobody knows what is going to be their status in future. So what is the NRC process? NRC process required a person to form a family tree. It's not only the person himself. Suppose if I have a voter card, that is an inclusive proof that I am an Indian citizen, but that is not enough. I have to prove my father, then my grandfather. I have to prove the whole tree, family tree, that since independence, that I'm a person, I belong to this land, and then only it will be accepted. So it's a very very difficult and very complicated process. And in this process, especially what happens, the women who were married, were victims of early child marriage, and also the children are affected. So those who are excluded, this 1.9 million, about 60% of them are women and children. And also what happened in this process is that the Muslim community, there is a practice of a very early child marriage, especially for the girl child. So many women that I met and I interviewed personally, they were married at the age of 11, 12. I'm talking of the, times, say the 1960s or say 1970s, and those times. So they were married very early, and in all their legal documents, they did not go to school also. Many of them did not go to school. Some of them did went to school. So what happened, they used their husband's name in all their legal documents, whether it's a voter card or whether it is a bank account, whatever it is, they use the husband name. So now what happened, when they have to prove this legacy, or when they have to make their family tree, they could not link their name with their father. And as a consequences, many of these women, they could not make it to the list of NRC, and they are in the risk of becoming statelessness. So in one family, the brother is an Indian national and the sister may be declared a foreigner. So this is what happened, and it's still happening. Okay, then also Father Cedric has already talked about this law, another law called CAA, which is the Citizenship Amendment Act. In this act, there is a preference has been given to non-Muslim immigrants from neighboring countries. Whoever is there in Assam, they can claim for citizenship. And the problem here is what happened in case of Assam. This 1.9 million people who are excluded, majority of them are non-Muslims. So now under NRC, these people have already claimed that they're Indian citizen, and they cannot get the benefit of the CAA, because again they have to claim under CAA that they have entered India illegally because of persecution they faced in their country. So in one law and in one process they have to claim they're Indian, in another process they have to claim that they are not Indian, they are foreigners. So there's a dilemma, and that's why this NRC list is still not, formally declared, and it is very unclear like what is going to happen to this list. Okay, so now I would like to go to, show you some case studies. So if someone can go to the slide where the picture is there. Because if I show you the pictures, if I show you the case studies, then it will be more clear how this process is affecting. So this person is, I met him in last year. He was like, I talked about the Foreigners Tribunal. So he was facing a case in Foreigners Tribunal. He was attending the hearings regularly, and one day when he was there in the court and he was attending his hearing, then police from another district came and said that you have been already declared a foreigner. So in one court, his case is going, and on the other hand, another Foreigners Tribunal, another district had already declared him a foreigner. So he was taken in the detention camp. And soon he was taken in the detention camp. It created a huge problem in his family. His family is completely ruined. He had 3 children, and his wife was there. And his wife was a housewife completely. The society also did not educate her and did not give her education or empowered her to have her own, livelihood. So she was dependent on the husband. So what she did, the only resources they had, their properties, they sold, and then they tried to fight for his case. And the Foreigners Tribunal, there is no review process. So you have to either go to the High Court or the Supreme Court. So they went to the High Court. In High Court also they lost the case, and his son came and said that now we have to fight the case in the Supreme Court. And this requires a lot of money to file, to file all these cases. So then the wife was so depressed, and then soon after that night itself, she committed suicide. And his husband did not even know. So after 3.5 years, when her husband came out, this is the picture now, his current picture, and he found that his wife is already dead, and she committed suicide. So and now they have sold out all their properties and the shop, whatever they have, the resources, and now they're not in a position even to file the follow up their Supreme Court cases. So with the help of some NGOs, he's following up his case now. And what he said is that he's suffering mentally. He's so depressed and physically also weak after 3.5 years in detention camp. And so his life is never to be going to be what it was before. The next one, please. So this case, also you can see this woman, she was also facing the similar kind of issues. She was married at the age of 12. She is from one state called Meghalaya, and she is married to a man in Assam. And also she found it difficult to prove her legacy with his father, because she was married very early. She was not been to school, or all her legal documents has her husband's name, not her name. So she cannot prove the linkage with her parents. So even if someone, as I said, even if someone is, is an Indian citizen, unless you could prove your paternity, it's very difficult to prove that you are an Indian national. Okay, the next one, please. So the next one, this person also is a similar case. He is also facing, he's been also declared as a foreigner. And what happened in this case is that he panicked when he received a summon from the foreigners tribunal. So what he did is that he asked for a birth certificate from one of his person with the village, but that person is turned out to be a tout who was just taking money and gave him a fake birth certificate. And when he used this birth certificate, and then it was a fake document, so then it was conclusive proof. The tribunal took that it's a conclusive proof that you are a foreigner, and that's why he have faked the documents. And so he was also in the detention camp for more than 3 years. And after coming back from the detention center, what happens is that whoever is released from the detention center, they are already declared foreigners. So now what they have to do, every week they have to go to the police station and they have to report. So this means these people who work as a migrant worker, they cannot leave their station. They have to continue to be there, and this affects their livelihood. So this person was a migrant worker, he was a carpenter, and now he cannot work. So this is affecting his family life as well. He is not in a good relationship with his wife, and children is also that he's not able to look after. So his wife and children has already left him, and she is in her parents' house. So you see how it affects their life even after release. The next one. This case, she is not a Muslim woman, but she is from one of the indigenous community. And in her case also the same thing happened. Her husband was taken in the detention center. Her husband also declared the foreigner, and then he died when he was in the detention center. So she met him for only a very brief period, and he died. So even if this issue is like whoever is marginalized, whoever is weak in their resources, financial resources, who are not able to fight, so they are all becoming a kind of victim, though the large number of population who are victim are Muslims. Next one, please.
Advocate Anjum, 5 minutes more. 5 minutes more for the session.
Oh, is there some time for me?
Yes, still 5 minutes is left.
Okay, I'll try to. So this one, this is a very sad story. This woman was in detention camp for more than 10 years. She was nearly 10 years and 4 months. So you see, her father. They when I met her father was still alive, but they could not prove. She could not prove her legacy with his father. But you see, there is a test called DNA test, which you can determine the paternity. But DNA test is not an acceptable mode. It is not acceptable mode for the access. So I don't know why this is not accepted. So she could not prove, and she was in detention camp for more than 10 years. So this picture you can see when she went to the detention center. She had this boy was I think 2 years old or 3 years old, and she was breastfeeding him. And when she came back, he became very big. And in fact, when she came home after detention center, this boy was standing near to her, and she was asking, "Who is this boy?" And people said, "This is your son." And she started crying at that moment, and it was really a very sad moment. And in 10 years, she also lost her husband. She lost her whatever the resources they had. The family spent all their money, and her brother also, sold property and used it for her release. And she also told me that she was pregnant when she was taken in a detention camp, and she had a miscarriage because she was really tense and sad. So in 10 years of time, you can see right now she has nothing. Some NGO is supporting her for her food and other requirements. So that's all she has. In 10 years, the life is completely finished, and also she could not educate her 3 children she has. Okay, the next one. These are some, the next one is some women we met during a counseling session, legal counseling. Now the next one. So this is the construction of a large detention center. Here it will have the capacity of nearly 3,000 people. And it is going to be one of the, largest detention center in India. And there is also report that there will be 10 more such centers in Assam. So can you go to the next slide or the last slide? I just want to finish it here. Yeah, so there is the last slide, please. So what I want to say is that there's no clear distinction between citizenship laws and the immigration laws, and it's affecting lots of minorities, and also marginalized groups, and majority of these are Muslims. And there is no policy regarding the NRC list, which was passed in 2019. And such kind of uncertainties and absence of clarity, it's my personal fear that there might be a situation like the Rohingyas in next 30, 40 years. You never know. I mean, there might be a situation like that if this 1.9 million people who are excluded, it's not clear what's going to happen to that. Then, a rule of laws is clearly in all those measures. It's lots of full of bias, arbitrariness, prejudice, and also, against the Bengali-speaking Muslims, these foreigners traveling, all these processes. And also what I found is that international NGOs like Amnesty or Human Rights Watch, they did not raise this issue for a long time. It's only after 2016 that they started addressing and talking about these issues of citizenship rights and statelessness, the risk of statelessness in Assam. Okay, so there is so what I want to say is that apart from the other reports, I think this situation, what has happened in Assam, there is a policy that, or there are reports in the media that government might implicate this system of NRC all over the country, and it is going to create a lot of chaos. It's going to take a lot of resources as well from the state's exchequer, and ultimately it will give rise to big human crisis, and where minorities are going to suffer more, especially the Muslims. So we need to be vigilant, and we need to do something at this moment so that we can avoid another Rohingya-like situation. So with that, thank you all, and I look forward if there's any question I can take up in the question session. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Advocate Anjum. Indeed, it's a very alarming situation because had it not been CAA announced, we were not very much aware of the situation in Assam. And yes, whenever there is an election coming up or any government to be formed in the northern eastern part, especially in Assam, this thing comes up as one of the most, you can say, challenging one for the Muslims and also for the other communities, especially the tribals who lack all documents to prove their lineage and family tree. Hopefully, we will try to network with all those of you like yourself and others who can explain to the people outside Assam about the repercussion of this, especially NRC and CAA, and how people have been suffering. And also I'm so much interested to know, like in future, how women are being rehabilitated or empowered to face such situation when it comes to their family. That is also something we need to work in that direction, because after all, women are the main losers, sufferers. I would say not losers, but they need to be empowered legally, psychologically, and also with the help of other NGOs. But yes, it's very challenging situation right now for the NGOs as well, civil society, because they have been targeted and their CRAs has been cancelled. There is no provision for funding, major funding in India anymore. So it is like there is a parallel or you can say a system which is been adopted against the civil society movement, especially when we are supporting Myanmar refugees or people who are in the detention center. Even those NGOs are under target. So we have to work out how we can be more accessible to these people. So thank you so much, and let me inquire with Professor Hassan if he is like ready with his presentation. Yeah, please unmute yourself, sir. I'm sure if you're audible.
A greeting, Kutub, and all participants. My apology for not knowing the technique. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I want to make some theoretical constructs on the basis of my experience and understanding about identity politics and minority in India in particular, and of course, nearby countries in general. I believe that theocratic states based on religion have ruined their internal peace, progress, and international image. They have brought stigma to their country. Take any country, for example, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, remember a predominantly Hindu populated country, Nepal, has chosen to be non-theocratic. India seems to be on the path of a theocratic state, and that's very alarming. And I believe that there's a great resistance among the majority of Hindus against this kind of a move. But of course, in a deep state, democratic voices are being muted. Why India or the party in power wants to have a Hindu state? I have my own way of putting it this way. Hinduism is based on hierarchy of caste. Though a large number of Hindus are liberated from this kind of orthodoxy, caste hierarchy based on the concept of purity and impurity also reflects in the reality distribution of economic and social power of caste group. That's the crux of the problem. A Hindu state is a vision to reinvent that hierarchical order of social and economic power. Islam and Christianity, and I believe Buddhism, perhaps do not allow these kind of closed space. They are open in the sense that people from other religious groups who have gone through duress in life due to their race, religion, and other identities, they walk into religions which are open just at least theoretically to allow them to enter temples and churches. That's a great redemption for them. But membership, in a strict sense of the term, to the highest Hindu caste, Brahmins, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas, are not open to membership for the people of other faiths. This could also apply to the people who are called Jews, Jains, and Parsis. No nation, I believe, has a uniform religious population. Tells my personal international experience in Africa, Europe, and Americas. And no country has a similar lifestyle, behavior, culture. But all citizens of those countries have equal rights to live and access to state institutions. Deviations from this formula are a sure recipe for disasters. Therefore, impediment to peace and prosperity, that is economic and social progress. The axiom, we all know, that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, is widely held true. In a theocratic state and absolute majoritarian states, economic in states, power behaves like a bulldozer, and we have seen in UP. Demonstrating absolute power in policies and action is usually a characteristic of theocratic and dictatorial regimes. I'll skip from the large part of the paper, which I have already sent to Kutub. This muscularity, also a trait of democracies with absolute ethnic majority of race, religion, language, and caste. There is a tendency of such regimes to advance unequal control of national resources and institutions and transfer them to fewer corporate houses or big families. Control and concentration of resources and institutions in a majoritarian state create the following phenomenon and conditions: scarcities and price rise of commodities and services, exhibits deep state characteristics, ruthless repression of public protest and critiques of the state policies. We all have been witnessing this kind of behavior from the state. Rise of hypercultural nationalism based on one identity. Development of environment to do away with constitutional principles of justice and economic equality, namely socialism, secularism, and pluralism. In order to digress from economic issues and a Hindu state project, a fictional enemy excuse me. Yes, digression of attention from economic issues and a Hindu state project to inventing of a vulnerable ethnic community as enemy, as cause of economic failure and hurting the national pride of the majority community. I would like to underline this fact: inventing an enemy, and it ought to be an ethnic minority, whether they are migrants, whether they are from the within stock of the nation. Distortions of historical truth. Babar came to India to loot and plunder the country and destroy temples could be partly true, but he was invited by Rana Sanga of the Marwar state. It should be noted. Muslims and Christians are seen as obstacles in the hierarchy of caste-based Hindu state project because they are open for membership. And that is, I believe, is the cause of Hindu state to target them. Myths like appeasement of Muslim minority is created as if it is a dreaded, angry God to be placated by offering sacrifice to it. This concept was floated by, I believe, L.K. Advani during his Ramrath movement, and nobody has questioned the theory of appeasement of Muslims. Although we know that at the moment, all parties are trying, including Congress, trying to placate Hindus for political reasons. So take it that appeasement of Muslims is largely a myth, given, as stated in Sattar Committee report, the status of Muslims lower than scheduled caste and tribe in certain areas. And we don't want to talk about it, but it must be stated today. Then this state gives rise to storms of rumors, hate, and violence against the targeted ethnic community and critics of the state policies. from larger community, and writers and social activities are unleashed with the tacit approval of the state apparatus and the party in power. Many times we say why the head of the state is not speaking against burning of a poor Muslim or rape of a woman or killing of this and that people from the minority community. We see a big silence from the state institution. And therefore, there is an emergence of a deep state. I wish you could refer to the book by Joshi Joseph on deep state. And there I think at least about 20 books on deep states for the different countries. There's also a scenario in such Hindu state or an authoritarian state raised for costly imports of modern war weapons from industrial Western countries like the USA and France to ward off international criticism against its human rights violations. How to please Western countries who are supposed to be critic of human violations in third world countries? They are placated by huge trade with them, import of war weapons. And we have seen recently, we are witnessing even today, what is happening in Sri Lanka. Some say all monsoons come from the south via Sri Lanka. What are the economic process generally in a country? In conservative economic system, maximization of profit is a rule and soul of the market economy. Due to technological innovations, geographical mobility, and emergence of organizations like IMF, World Bank, UNCTAD, and many small consultant groups in California, Washington, DC, conservative economies are controlled by powerful international corporate houses. Today, I suppose the voice of these corporate houses are much more louder and being heard with respect than the grasshoppers voicing their concern about how they are being crushed. For the last 1 decade or so, some powerful corporate houses have emerged in India, controlling national economy and playing important role in international markets. Indian financial and management honchos populate the Wall Street and preside over many international corporate houses. I will not be taking out the can from the Wall Street and the role of Indian migrants who have become very powerful in terms of their technological knowledge. Public protest against scarcities, high price, and falling income because of high cost. Because of the high cost of living and hoarding, they ignite public resentment and protest. Public protest against scarcity and price hikes like cooking gas, water, electricity, etc., and falling employment and income on the other destabilize public order. Repression follows. Parties with absolute majority repress public protest ruthlessly. Deep state characteristics gather momentum. Police targets opposition and community leaders, critics of the state policies, even from the majority community, and even writers and artists. Note that, not only that, they are being demonized and imprisoned on false charges to muffle their peaceful democratic voices. Tactics of diversion of public attention, that is, inventing an enemy. Right-wing conservative governments tend to divert attention of public from who control resources, the economic problems of the nation, and public protest and agitations against these scarcities. To do so, the state machinery and the party in power invent an enemy and ethnic vulnerable minority groups like the Jews, the Muslims, the Mormons, the Mexicans, the Bangladeshis, and the Tamils in Sri Lanka. And though Rohingyas are from Myanmar, but being an ethnic minority, they have been repressed and thrown out of the country. And we are having a large number of Rohingya Muslims in this country because of our humanitarian society. Historically, and in recent times, such enemies, for example, have been Jews, Muslims, Rohingya, etc., through propaganda and hyper narratives.
Hassan sir, could you please conclude?
I think he's muted. Teman-teman boleh nggak dibantu?
Hassan sir, you are unmute yourself, Hassan sir. You are muted.
No, please click the microphone icon. Can you see? No voice still.
Still unmute.
Yeah. We only can ask him to unmute, but we couldn't technically unmute him.
No. No.
Please unmute.
Oh. itu दिखाई दे रहा है बेटा सुनो Is okay, Kutub?
Yes, sir. Now you can hear, and kindly conclude your session now.
Should I conclude? Okay. What I'm saying is, Kutub, that when I came to India in 1984, I was asked, why did I come to India? And I told them, I have seen life in Arab countries, Pakistan, Africa, Europe, and America. I strongly feel that it is my country, India, which has a democracy, which allows me to speak. And speaking and voicing your concern about the society, about your natural resources is my birthright, and that is available in this country. At the moment, it is being curtailed, but we, as a cumulated voice, will speak up and save the democracy of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan sir. And indeed, it is like there is a complete shift in the scenario when it comes to the freedom of, whatever constitutional provisions we have. And it is the whole pillar of democracy is under compromise, whether it is media, judiciary, or parliament. So let's hope our efforts bring some impact and we continue to sustain ourselves in this challenging situation. Thank you, Hassan sir. Now we have, we are open for the question and answer session. Before that, I would like to read a few comments which we have received in the chat box. There is one comment from Professor Salim Muhammad. The government administration philosophy must be based on religious tolerance as a whole, irrespective of all outs. A flower pot filled with different colors, flower content and all, one color monopoly pot can never be attractive. So we want composite culture arena around based on its sense and incomplete. The next comment comes from Peter D. Cruz. Dr. Kumar Saptarishi, Gandhi Foundation Pune, has expressed a similar idea of spreading Gandhi's idea of humanity and non-violence throughout our country and throughout our country and world, and it's worth working together. Another comment we have. Yes, there is a question from Ruby. Miss Anjuman, I'm interested to know how international communities, in particular UN, response to those cases related to enforcement of foreign judgments comparative guide. Yes. So I think Anjuman should take this question from Ruby first, and then I have one question. I can invite other audience also, and I have one question for Father Cedric Prakash and Professor Hassan as well. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I can answer.
Yes, Anju.
There is some limited response. I think when the NRC list was announced, the special rapporteurs on statelessness and minorities, they have issued a statement. They have condemned this process because it's excluding, and also it puts people on the risk of statelessness, which is a further international urge that no one should be stateless. And also, as far as I know, that there are several organizations who are working to prepare an alternative report to different bodies in the UN. And also, you see that India has not submitted its for last 22 years. However, there was a initiative that the Human Rights Committee is going to have a session on India without its report, and many has already submitted the NGO and other stakeholder reports. So once because of COVID, it got delayed, and so once the Human Rights Committee takes up, I think there will be some more responses from the UN. Yeah, so that is what. Thank you.
Anyone from the audience would like to ask questions to the speakers? Okay, I have a question for Father Cedric Prakash. Father, like you said, like we need to work on two parallels, like, one to have this, grassroots level of interfaith collaboration, and secondly, to save the constitution. And I think this is something, which will generate a mass movement, definitely, but because of the meager resources, like many of us, especially the organization and NGOs are working, and their priorities has changed due to the, as I said, the interference from the department, in the civil society work. So now how that could be, resolved, or how we can collaborate in this direction?
Yeah, I don't think
Can everyone hear what Father Cedric? No, I think he's cut off from the line.
I think some network issues.
Yeah, maybe we can come back later.
Yeah. Yes, any more questions from the audience?
Hello.
Yes.
हेलो
हाँ बोलिए नसीम बेन।
हाँ आने समझ में तो आई, मगर इसका अपनी रिपोर्ट हमको देना तो समझ में आ जाएगी कि क्या मीटिंग में आने निर्णय हुआ और क्या अपने वो करा आपने मीटिंग में आने क्या इश्यू बेस थे और क्या उसका निचोड़ निकालेंगे अपने।
जरूर आपको रिपोर्ट मिल जाएगी और हम लोग एक बैठक करेंगे इसके बाद।
हाँ ओके
ठीक है, थैंक यू। One of our audience from India, Gujarat, wanted to know more on how we are going to take this forward, and they wanted to have want to see the report of this talk today. So I said that we will provide you, and we will also discuss with you. Is anyone else from the audience? Ruby, should we conclude because it's a prayer time now for
Yeah.
all of us?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, now allow me to invite Brother Imranul Haq, who is also a member of Asian Muslim Action, in fact, global member of Asian Muslim Action Network, Bangkok, Thailand, and one of the leading or founder members of the Aman in Asia and Southeast Asia. He's based in Bangladesh and have been very active in promoting progressive and moderate Islamic approach. So let me welcome Brother Imranul Haq from Bangladesh, Dhaka.
Thank you, Sister Kutub. Can you hear me?
Yes, brother.
Okay, thank you. Good evening from Bangladesh. I think I am very privileged to be able to present in this August event. That was very, this event was very, to me, it's very, very informative, and what is going on, it is particularly in India, it is well known throughout the world that there are lots of problems with regard to Muslim minorities and other minorities, including Christians in India. But what is happening in between, that was not much talked, and why those are being happening, that was not much talked. I appreciate Aman and Nita for taking the issue forward with this Muslim talk. I am enlightened with these discussions today, particularly from Professor Azra's discussion. Also, Father Prakash, he talked a lot about the Indian Constitution. Professor Mahmoud Hassan talked a lot about what's going on, particularly, and why are the root causes. He also took the cultural issues and the economic issues also that are those are responsible for this situation in the country. To me, you see, the history of this subcontinent, particularly India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, was once one state, but we did not historically see a lots of hassle, fighting between Muslims, Hindus, religious fightings were not there. The fightings might be for giving the power, going to the power, continue the power, but the religious fighting was not so much there. There are big fightings among the Muslims, Hindus, but generally, what is happening now in India, even in Bangladesh also, it was not there like that. It was not. Now it is rampant that these religious groups are fighting. But astonishingly, what I feel, these religious groups are in the power. I mean the power of the power in terms of going to the government, as a government is a power, and also rich people, power, money, and rich, and the power of money and the government machinery, using the government machinery. These are working to fuel these communal fightings, communal discontents in this region. But to me, it is also very questionable that India is a very secular state, a secular nation. Throughout the world, India is popular for its democracy. Okay, democracy is going on. fair voting is going on in India. But after voting, who is going to power and what these power groups are using in terms of human rights, in terms of upholding the Constitution of India. As I understand, the BJP government nowadays is totally going against their own constitution. So how that can be done? How a political party going to the power through a constitutional process, through election, and doing a law against the constitution in terms of communal discrimination, in terms of creating problems among the communities, religious communities, how that can be done. So I think that the whole scenario is problematic. Constitution cannot work on itself. And the people, as you said, the NGOs who are going to support the NRC affected people in Assam or what, they are civil society is in crisis to forward their work, to go their work. So I think that this is people's voice. You see what happened in Sri Lanka. When people can understand that this is our problem, they can identify, they can solidify the problem, and they unite. In Sri Lanka, or you will find that there are Muslim and Hindu fights, and chronologically for years together there are fights. But now, for changing the government at the moment, what is happening? The whole Sri Lankan are united I think that people's voice should be raised. I appreciate Nida and Aman for creating this platform where people can talk. It is not only the Muslim should be talking. I appreciate the people, particularly Father Prakash side. I am not a student of political science, so I became enlightened with Father Prakash's deliberations and also Professor Hassan's deliberations. And I also know Professor Azra from years before. He's always propagating Vasanta, the middle path, which is clearly Islam's path. So I think that this process should be strengthened. How the people of the region, not only the Muslim, can come together and find out the issues, make the issues, bring the issues to the light, and create it. As Professor Hassan said, that he is in a democratic country, he is able to talk. I think that in Bangladesh also, you will find that Bangladesh scenario is different. Bangladesh government is against all these religious discriminations. There are some incidents that are happening with regard to Hindus and Muslims in some places in particular, but the government is not giving any opportunity so that this can create more space. And the civil society is also doing some within their limitation, trying to do some things so that the religious harmony can be established. So I think that taking these small opportunities we have, as against all bad scenarios of disharmony among the religious groups, religions in the subcontinent. I think that the task the Aman is taken on her shoulder, including Nida. I appreciate this, and I thank all the presenters today, including Ruby and Professor Azra, Professor Hassan, Father Cedric, and also Anjuman, Advocate Anjuman, and all the participants. And I don't want to take more because of that we are beyond time. So thank you very much from me and also from Bangladesh. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Ronald. Thank you very much, all the speakers, Father Prakash, Professor Hassan, Ms. Anjuman, and particularly for Nida, of course, Kutub, for arranging this, and all participants. I hope this small platform will provide more update inside the Muslim in the different countries, and as civil society, we hope that through this platform we can continue in the connection as well as bring solidarity, and in the future we'll be able to have more concrete collaboration. Thank you so much for joining with this conversation, and stay healthy, and also good night here in Indonesia. And
Good night
Same
from
to you.
India too.
Same to you.
thank you so much.
God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Father.
you.
To Aman,
Let's
to
stay in touch.
Nida, Ruby, Kutub, and all concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
This was wonderful, Kutub, meeting of minds in the seminar. It was nice to know all of them. We will keep it up.
Yes,
We'll carry on
thank you,
bravely as
Professor.
far as possible.
Thank you very much.
See you again, everyone, for the next Muslim Talk.